Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you to add some positive encouragement to your life. And I'm using a new camera, so let me know what you think about this. I'm still trying to dial in all of the adjustments in the lighting and so forth, but I wanted to give it a try. And we're talking about where is the blessing? Okay. Recently, I came across a phrase where somebody said, think of everything as a blessing. Everything that comes into your life is a blessing. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. You're telling me that the early passing of my cat who had cancer is a blessing. You're telling me that having my both parents be deceased is a blessing. And you're probably filling in the blank as well. You're telling me that losing my job and my income is a blessing, that losing a loved one under tragic circumstances is a blessing. I actually think of a girlfriend of mine who lost her husband to an accident, found love again in life, and 14 months after she was married for the second time, she lost her husband in an accident. You're going to tell me this is a blessing? You probably have had financial struggles, medical struggles, issues with finances, family members, and you probably are also narrowing your eyes like I am and thinking, what do you mean? Think of everything in your life as a blessing. That's kind of a tough approach to go with, but it really got me thinking. And as a person who God has gifted, thank you, Lord, with optimism and determination, and also I would say that I'm naturally a cheerful person. I like to look on the positive, but very often it's difficult to actually look at these experiences and circumstances in our life as a blessing. But I do believe that it is a valuable exercise to look for what could be a blessing, even in the most dire of circumstances. I'm somewhat of an expert on grief, you would say. I don't know if that's really something that I want to claim, but I have had losses throughout my life, as many of us have. And for several years, I was involved in a group called Grief Share. Let me know if you are familiar with that. It is a Christian based way of learning tools and techniques and strategies to deal with grief and healing. I am never a person that is going to say that grief is something you get over. It's something that you really acclimate and accommodate and integrate into your life. So throughout all of these times that I've been with people that have been grieving, it is so astonishing to me how someone can look for the good in their circumstances. And I remember one man saying, I had my wife we were married for 35 years and I miss her terribly, but I choose to focus on the 35 years that we had together. Now, I will be doing more encouragement coaching on grief and loss and life after loss. Let me know in a comment if that's something you're interested in. My husband, Pastor David, and I are planning on doing an event in person. And I would like to know if you're interested in West Coast or East Coast, because those will be the locations we're looking at. And it is, as I say, something that I've been dealing with for most of my life, dealing with losses. And I will say that focusing on the positive when the time is right and when you are ready and willing and eager to do so can be really a lifeboat for the soul. So when I started looking at this phrase, where is the blessing? It does take some digging. I also refer to these as hidden gifts. And the reason they're hidden is because they're not always apparent. But when we do some deep digging, we can perhaps uncover a truth that we can hang on to that will allow us to keep our head above the waves one more day, keep the breath flowing one more day so that we can get through the grieving, whatever it is that we're grieving. And as I say, process, experience, express it, and integrate it. This is a very superficial way of talking about the many, many layers of grief. But let me know if you have found hidden blessings, if you have found hidden gifts, if you have found that something that you thought was such a tragedy could actually have a blessing embedded in it. So I'm thinking about a devastating loss I had of a kitty cat who actually lived to be 17 years old. And she was one that I rescued out of many animals in New Orleans in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. So at the time she passed away, she was 17 years old. And I had all of my animals have been rescues. And I still have a 19-year-old that was kind of her sister, a 19-year-old cat that I also rescued. And then my girl Teddy is a 14-year-old that I found as an abandoned puppy, starving and near death. And she's still with me to this day. And in the losses of animals that I've had previously, I know that that love never dies. It has taken another form. It is so heartbreaking to not have the physical presence. And friends, I'm using the example of my animal on purpose. You may have an experience where you're thinking, Peggy, I can't believe you're grieving an animal. You know, I'm talking about the loss of a spouse or a child or a parent or a sibling. And I'm not here to compare at all. In fact, that is one of the less helpful activities when we are grieving with others as a witness, is to not compare. Everybody's loss is valid, and it is their own to grieve in their own way. So focusing on the years that I had with my cat, focusing on the fact that she may not have had any of those years if I had not rescued her, it doesn't necessarily ease my pain, and it doesn't release the sorrow, and it certainly does not minimize my missing her on a daily basis, but it does allow me to identify some of the blessings that I may have overlooked in my grief. So I was blessed that I had this loving, adorable kitty for all of these years. Do you know that she would sleep in between me and my husband? She had her own pajamas, not that she wore, but that she had to sleep on. And the reason she had her own pajamas, which I still have, these were my pajamas. And when she was a tiny little kitten, she wanted to make her biscuits on my arm. And it was so sharp with her claws, even though they were trimmed. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable. So I would wear pajamas to kind of protect my skin. And then bit by bit, I would take the pajamas, and let her just have the pajamas to knead on. And that became her little blankie, her name was Itty Bitty, her little Itty Bitty blankie. And do you know that she would not settle down unless she had her blankie? And then I had to have my hand, and she slept on my hand while I tickled her tummy. This is my little Itty Bitty. So imagine this as a daily routine for 17 years. And yes, I'm grieving that. And it puts a smile on my face to think about her routine and how much love she brought into my life, and the blessings that she brought to my life, and the blessing that she was in my life, and that I was to her. I literally rescued her from certain death. I was in New Orleans. They were closing down this massive animal shelter that they had at the fairgrounds. The animals were kept in cages in the horse stalls. And it was the final day. And there were several of us that had been volunteering there. And there were about 6 or 7 animals left. And we said, well, what's going to happen if you're closing? They said, well, sadly, we're going to have to euthanize these animals. I'm like, not on my watch. So all of us arranged at a very last minute, because we need to have paperwork and, authority of where they were going and being able to take them out of state. And I brought back several cats. 2 of them, as I say, were kittens that I kept, and she was one of them. So it was a blessing that she was saved from certain death. I'm using this as an example, and there are many areas in my life. I lost 2 jobs at the beginning of all of the hogwash, as I call it, when the government shut everything down, even though I was educating the schools where I was teaching that they didn't have to shut down, that these were not laws, but they decided to do so anyway. And they never called me back. They didn't like the freedom movements that I was a part of, and the teaching that I did to help empower people to know their rights and how to stand up for them and to protect their freedom. And I had to grieve those losses of jobs as well. And, the blessing, I didn't see the blessings in the beginning because it was like a complete stop to my paychecks and my income. But the hidden gift here was that I started doing other work. I started making my videos. I started educating people, empowering people. And that was a great gift. It wasn't even a hidden gift. It was an apparent gift. And so there were blessings in that as well, that I found different sources of income and a new and better way of living. So those are just a couple of examples. Many years ago, I broke my foot, and it was so painful. And I was teaching exercise, and I was teaching my English classes, and my home at the time had stairs, and I had to scoot myself up and down, sitting down. And it was very, very difficult. It took so much more time to go everywhere. And I was not able to exercise the way that I'd like to. And I thought, I cannot believe this has happened to me. And I looked for the hidden gifts there. I looked for the blessings. I learned to really appreciate just a simple cup of tea, because it would take me so long. I was on one of those little scooters. I had my knee in a boot. I had my knee on the scooter and my foot in a boot, and I would scoot myself along, get into the kitchen. My husband was working outside at the time, so he was not able to assist me, and then make the little cup of tea. And then very, very carefully, I either had to stand there and drink it, or very carefully scoot myself over to where I could sit down. So just the simple act of having a cup of tea became an accomplishment, something that I appreciated at a much higher level than when I was just able-bodied. Many of you have told me stories of going through health challenges, and you found that they were a blessing in disguise. That's another way that we use that expression. And going back to this phrase that I came across, everything in your life is a blessing. I pushed back against that. I didn't want to accept that as a truth. I used it as a challenge to think about the hardships in my life and to find the hidden gifts, to look at it as a blessing. Something else, this is a little bit like, second level of taking that concept. What if, and maybe not even what if, but accepting as a truth that this is exactly as God wanted it. This is how God ordained it. So when I look at the loss of my little kitty and how hard that was, and all of the losses of my animals, and I think, it could have been much worse. There could have been additional circumstances that would have been more costly, more painful, taking more time. It could have been a situation where my animal was suffering greatly. So I don't know what the road not taken could have been. I don't know what the other choice would have yielded, or the other circumstance would have yielded. So I want to trust God and trust in his blessings. My husband, Pastor David, has a YouTube channel as well. It's called True Hope with Pastor David, and he broadcasts every Tuesday. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific. He also interacts in the chat, and his broadcast last week was all about blessings. And he said something that was so powerful. And I hope that you will watch that. I will endeavor to link that for you at the end of this video. And he said, God doesn't make mistakes, and God wants to bless you in your life. And you need to, I'm paraphrasing, he said it much more eloquently, receive the blessings fully. And then this phrase I absolutely love: allow the blessings to work in your life. And then those blessings could go on to bless others. I just thought that was so profound. You might be like me, where I am kind of quick to dismiss. Maybe that's not the right way of saying it, but I want to take more time to enjoy the blessings in my life. I want to accept them. I want to receive them. I want to acknowledge them. And I want to just really relish them. I want to enjoy them and not be so quick to dismiss, like, oh, that was just a fluke, or didn't really. We are so quick to dismiss that. Think of the blessings that you have, friends, our community here, your health, your life, those other people that bless your life by being a part of it. So think about whatever happens in your life, that this is the way that God wants it. It's actually a blessing, and that the road not taken could have even have been worse, or worst, as I like to say, because worst is worse than worse. What we focus on tends to magnify. So if you focus on the blessings, in my experience, it seems like you are just opening up your hands to receive more, and keeping your hands open to share those blessings with others. I do want to end on another example, and this one's a little, may hit home for some of you. When I was in my grief share group, and I was also I was also facilitating those groups as well. And there was a situation where one of the individuals talked about her husband having an accident at home. And by the time he got to the hospital and over a period of several days, he just didn't fully recover. And sadly, he passed away from those circumstances. And this poor woman was just beside herself because she felt that she was the cause of the accident. She was telling her husband to hurry up, hurry up. He was at the top of the stairs and he took a tumble. And that is what set off the whole incident of going to the hospital and then his eventual passing. And she could not forgive herself by wanting him to quickly go. And they were actually on their way to church. And she just felt that she was the cause of his demise. But when she started thinking about how could she look for the hidden blessing, the hidden gift? Is there anything in these circumstances that she could be grateful for? And she actually, it took some time and prayer and introspection and contemplation. And she finally realized that she had no control actually over the incident. She doesn't even know whether her telling him to hurry up was the cause of his falling or not. He could have had, because it turned out that he had a broken hip. His hip could have could have given way first. And that could have caused the tumble down the stairs. So there's no proving that what she did actually was the cause of anything. She also went further in her thinking and conclusion of how this actually, there could be a hidden blessing there, because she thought, my husband could have had a heart attack as we were driving to church. He could have had a car accident where other people could have been in this car accident, maybe with, also meeting their demise. So she realized that there were some hidden blessings that she was now able to look at. Everybody's situation is different. I don't want to put words in your mouth or minimize anything that you're going through. But you came to this channel because you're looking for positive encouragement. And even taking a pen and a piece of paper and writing out anything that you can think of that could be a blessing. The years that you spent together. I think of my dad and when he passed away, and he passed away suddenly of a heart attack. I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye. And there are some people that have told me, Peggy, that's actually the blessing in disguise, that he didn't suffer, that he didn't have to go into a nursing home, that you didn't have to see him set up on the wires and, see his slow demise. You had all of those years with him. He knew that you loved him and you know that he loved you. And that is what you can stand on. Again, not in any attempt to minimize the pain, the loss, the sorrow, all of that endures, but to look for the blessings in that are there. So I hope this broadcast has been helpful for you, friends. Many of you are emailing me and leaving comments here about what you're going through. And I would love to support you in figuring out life after loss. I don't want to talk about mending broken hearts, because I think there are some broken hearts that will only be mended in heaven. But I do want to help you share your story, get the support that you need, and learn from my many years of grieving and integrating those losses into my life. There is life after loss. It may not be the life that you had hoped for. It may not be the life that you wanted, but there can be life that can be lived fully. And I want to help you every step of the way. My husband and I are trained lay counselors. What does that mean? A lay counselor is someone who is not holding a license in psychotherapy. This is not psychotherapy. This is not marriage counseling. It is caring individuals, listening, supporting, and encouraging you on your healing journey. So I would love to be a part of that. We want to do this in person, no Zoom calls. This is going to be face-to-face, because there is a powerful opportunity to share hugs, to shed tears, to share some laughter, to hear from others, to learn from others. And this is what God has called us to do. So I hope that you will be a part of it. If that's something that you are unable to do in person, whether you have limitations with travel or health or finances or time, then please continue to watch my videos here. I cover a lot on grief, and I pray that this will be a blessing to you. Thank you, everybody, for being on board. I'm here every Monday broadcasting at 11 a.m. Pacific, and I also will have a Substack forthcoming. A Substack is a free type of blog or newsletter. And this is where I will summarize the videos that I do and give you my written comments in case you would like to read those or share those with others. It's absolutely free. Some people do support me with a paid subscription as a thank you for the work that I do. I'm grateful for you. I look forward to our next get together. And in the meantime, focus on the blessings. They are out there. See you soon, everybody.